Yeah, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.
The world's just changed so radically, and we're all running to catch up. How can we possibly have the slightest idea of what to expect? The best intentions. Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
Dr. Malcolm, here to share a few campfire stories with my uncle.
You can convince the Washington Post and the Skeptical Inquirer of whatever you want. But I was there, I know what happened, and so do you.
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
Hello, welcome to the July issue of Jurassic Minutes, where we discuss recent movie, toy and franchise news for the Jurassic series. I'm Brad.
And Dave.
And on this episode, it's mainly all going to be about Camp Cretaceous and the teaser/trailer that come out, but more of that in a minute. David, any new toys, collectibles, or props in the mail are on the horizon for you?
Well, besides the ones I've already talked about, I do have these kind of things coming up. I got the third part of it today. If anybody's aware of the Cinefex magazines, I've got the 2001 issue with the Spielberg AI artificial intelligence cover, but inside it has Jurassic Park 3 in it, kind of intercutting it throughout the various chapters that it discusses some of the other movies, the big blockbusters for that year.
Air quotes blockbusters.
Well, it's kind of got some of the movies that did not do so well kind of being major advertised, including Jurassic Park 3 AI and the 2001 Planet of the Apes movie with Mark Wahlberg. That was kind of not very good. It was kind of like a crappy attempt to reboot the movies that never really went anywhere, unlike the Andy Serkis Planet of the Apes movies that they came out with for the past couple of years. I was watching War for Planet of the Apes earlier today.
I finally caught up with that the other day too. Yeah, I had no baggage going to that 2001 Planet of the Apes movie, and yeah, it's not the best, but I think the makeup work on that far exceeds the quality of that film. Yeah,
I would definitely agree. The script is not up to snuff. I would have sent that one back for another bit of polish.
Because
the concept is kind of what's that?
I was just going to say it's a common thing in 2001.
Yeah, because the concept is kind of there. It's kind of world building and interesting, but it's just kind of ruined by a really crappy script and dialogue, and it's like nobody actually sat down and read the thing before it was put to screen, you know?
Yep. Has it, that article about JP Free, has it got any sort of production photos or anything in their marketing that we haven't seen previously, or...?
It's pretty much all been released. I haven't really gotten a chance to read through it yet, but yeah. It's kind of been a relaxing day. I'm a little sore from working out in the yard yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, I got a message, or someone posted in a local Jurassic Park themed group here in Australia that Amazon Australia had the Amber Collection Dennis Nedry up for sale at a lot cheaper price than what eBay and other sources have it, so I jumped straight onto that. So I now have Nedry coming, and it's my first sort of tiptoe into the Amber Collection, which I'm sort of excited for. The 24 hours later, the same person posted up that Dilophosaur was in there as well, and I went looking and couldn't find it, so I think it already sold out, unfortunately, because those two would have been a great first pair to get.
I've been kind of looking. I've been kind of on the fence about Nedry because I haven't actually gotten into any of the Amber Collection human figures yet. I have Blue and the Jurassic Park 1 Velociraptor. I wanted to get the Dilo and I liked it, but I didn't really kind of like the hand sculpt and the unpainted insides of the crest. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that, and then I couldn't unnotice it, and then it kind of ruined the figure for me. But yeah, I've been thinking about getting Nedry, even if I just had it like facing off and being gutted by a Velociraptor or something, you know.
Yeah, and that sort of enters a whole discussion on collecting sort of this newer stuff. I've got a lot of the Kenner stuff, the original Jurassic Park, and a little bit of the Lost World. I'd love to get more of the Lost World stuff as well, but it's that collecting this franchise stuff is more for the nostalgia and what I had as a child and no longer have, or that sort of thing. And while some of the Amber Collection stuff's looking good, like the Raptors I think look good, the Malcolm I'm not really 100% on. I've got a Malcolm figure from the Lost World which sort of half looks like Malcolm. There either wasn't or there was a Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park Kenner, but it was a muscle-bound dude left over from a previous line. But
yeah, like I said to Jay, it kind of reminded me of like James Bond, like a James Bond henchman in a turtleneck sweater.
yeah, and it's as good as this new Amber Collection stuff is. It's a lot harder to source over here. It's a lot more expensive than what you'd pay at retail over here as well, and I've got no interest in the Raptor Squad or Owen or any of the newer stuff. It'd be more for the nostalgia, and that's where sort of the Dilophosaur and Nedry are two things from that first film that I thought looked pretty good. Though I think the Dilophosaur mainly was for that sign, the East Dock sign. Was when you can get them, fans make them on eBay for $10 or whatever. So it's a bit of an expensive way to get that, but yeah, it's not even. And it's the same thing for the Mattel stuff, unless the animal's been in one of the films. Like there's a lot of new animals they've added to the lineup that aren't from the series. They're just making their versions of new dinosaurs that already exist, of course. But it's not something I want to go and spend the money on if it's not something I can see on film.
And at the same time, I mean, there have been a couple out there. I mean, not all of them, of course, but there have been a couple that have really caught my eye. Like, of course, the Siasmicorium, which was actually a dinosaur that the Field Museum produced the holotype of, and now it kind of disappeared in their collection now. But they just came out with a giant life-size Sue life reconstruction that I'm going to go see that next week.
At the museum? Is that the photos that have been posted up?
Full size, all the flesh T-Rex based on Sue the T-Rex.
I did see that, and it's got the kill hanging out of her mouth too.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah, there's one that's in stores here at the moment. I can't recall what it's called. It's mostly yellow, and it's almost got an afro. A big crest on.
I know.
It's a real nice looking animal and nice real looking toy, and I know it's not from the series, but it's something I'd consider getting just because I like the colour on it, I like the look and sculpt of the animal as well.
That one is, I think, the Suchomimus, which was mentioned by Billy in the third movie.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so there's a few like that I'll probably not get anyway, but mainly it's just going for the on-screen stuff. But I really want more vehicles. Can you please get an Explorer?
I know, and the only reason I can think of that they possibly haven't yet is, again, Ford. There's something wrong with, they can't get Ford Explorer, or they can't get Ford on board with it, you know?
Yeah, and it makes me wonder how many loops Iron Studios had to go through to get those Explorers for that T-Rex breakout scene.
Or that could be another thing. They're already signed with Iron Studios, and they're hesitant to sign with somebody else, you know?
Yeah. If you want an Explorer, you gotta pay $1,000 for it. That's in Australian currency anyway. Yeah.
Fire! Dr. Malcolm, fire! Base camp!
Alright, let's get into some news. Dominion's continuing to film, of course. There's been some set pics released or leaked, whichever way you want to put it, of Maisie, Owen, or Claire, Owen, and either Franklin or Maisie sitting around a table in a small cafeteria area, supposedly in London or a city like that. It's not real spoiler, and there's not really a lot to discuss with what's going on there.
I think it's Maisie only because the person is wearing a dark beanie, like we saw Maisie wearing in the leaked in costume photo that we saw of her, and the person's also really, really short too, like 13 or 14-year-old short, you know. Yeah.
There's a backpack on the ground beside the person as well, but that doesn't really say anything. I carry a backpack to work too, so it's it doesn't really hint at one thing or another. But yeah, it's good. Filming's continuing, and one day in the future we'll learn where that scene takes place and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of behind the scenes stuff, David, I think you posted up during this last week some more behind the scenes photos from The Lost World that previously unseen.
They were. I thought they were. Some of them are actually. These were something I had found on eBay, and I just actually took screen caps of. And the magazines that they're in, I don't know if they will, if I'll get them, because they were on eBay. They're these like Taiwanese magazines that the seller was selling them for like over $100, and I just can't justify dropping that kind of cash on a magazine. But yeah, they're Spielberg with a bullhorn from The Lost World. They're all from The Lost World. There's one of them. They're all with Spielberg, and one Spielberg's got a bullhorn. The other one Spielberg is talking to Attenborough. But the other two, there's Spielberg next to Michael Crichton, and he looks like they're on the set of The Hunter's Camp. And another one where Spielberg is talking to Pete Postlethwaite and Harvey Jason on the set of the Mombasa bar scene. And that one's really interesting because we have almost no behind the scenes images from that scene, and it looks like there's a big boom for a camera or a mic, I can't really tell. That looks like it'd be over the shot. And that one, like I said, I like to get these magazines, but I just can't justify the price the seller has them at. And I don't care where they come from. I'm not dropping over $100 on a magazine.
Yeah, it's an expensive market getting stuff like this. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Getting a little bit of an extra window into some of these behind the scenes stuff, and as you said, we haven't got a lot from that scene in Africa, so. And it's also just good to see the actors having fun on set too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if there's more than this because, like I said, I'm not going to get the magazines unless the price goes down. But I'd love to see what else is in there, Yeah.
What's the matter?
He didn't make it.
RJ. Oh, I'm sorry. Really? I am.
Over on the Jurassic PD discussion page, contributor Matthew posted up some screen caps from the upcoming prop auction that's happening at the end of the month. And for some reason, as soon as I change photo, the page isn't available right now. So I've just lost what they were. On the first image here, we got a shot of a used park brochure map, which is interesting, whether it's one from the Explorer or just something that's been not really looked after over the years. Pink polo shirt as well. And that goes away from my memory of what I've seen. If you want to continue a couple, I'll see if it works on my phone, because I don't know what's happened there.
A couple of these were just items that had previously been at auction and I guess did not sell. But they're still neat to see because, it's Jurassic Park and we love Jurassic Park. But yeah, they got like some of the animatic electric models that they use to animate the dinosaurs. I think they got the T-Rex one here. And a couple, like you said, a couple stop motion models of the raptors. And the pink polo shirt, that one was worn by the Jurassic Park employees, like the guys who would open and close the doors and the gates and stuff for you.
Mm.
Yeah, most of this is not really anything new, like the polo shirt and the license plate and the animatics and stuff like that. And also this raptor foot animatronic part here. I've seen that up here at auction a couple times. I'm guessing either they're not getting the prices that is expected of them, or people aren't interested in them. Which I don't see why not. The piece of the animatronic, I'd love to own that.
Well, yeah, it makes you wonder if the price is just being driven too high for them, or if, because I'd love to have each and every one of these things in my collection, but obviously, it must be a price. Here we go, price issue. Mm-hmm. Also got the two finger claws for the T-Rex there. I'm guessing maybe from that puppet that put its hand on the fence. It
could have been, yeah.
I can't see the text here clear enough. But they even estimated $4,000 to $6,000 just for I know 3 to 5,000 for those claws.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a weird layout here. What are they doing? Or is it 3 to 5,000 for the brochure map? That'd be even worse.
Yeah, really, especially considering, I mean, fans sell perfect replicas for thousands of dollars less.
Well, that's what it must be if the page format's right, because it's got the shirt for 800 to 1,200 and the Tour Vehicle 04 license plate for 3 to 5,000 as well. So that's a lot of money. Of course, it all's going to come with a certificate or authenticity, but that's still an ask.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting here too, the full-size raptor cage from the first film that we knew was on that ranch out where they had the RV stored,
Mm-hmm.
is now up for auction as well. You must have decided to finally sell, but even back then when they done that video a few years ago, it was sort of in a bad state of repair, and now it's not much better, and they still want 6,000 to 8,000 for it. But an on-screen, definitely something you could see on screen, and you'd hope someone got it to restore it.
Yeah.
What else is there? A few little animatronic, like the I don't even know what you call them, controls for the animatronics, I suppose. The skeletons that they have rigged up to the animatronics, so you move the tail and the tail moves and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, that I think would have been used in the stop motion, or not the stop motion, but in the animation. This is Tippett's contribution to the ILM side of the effects show. What they did was they would use these rod puppets to animate the dinosaurs on the screen, where the each of the points would feed information into the computer.
Yeah, dinosaur input device they call it, for electronic Tyrannosaur armature, which you got the little T-Rex frame here for all the plugs going off to where the animatronics would plug off. Then they want where do I see that? 25 to 35,000 for something like that. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose it'd be something people would want to get in their collection.
Mm-hmm.
Because we also have here too the more stuff from Phil Tippett, the stop motion puppets of the Tyrannosaur, and this is in a lot of behind the scenes stuff of him posing this T-Rex puppet above the a painted version of the Explorer. It's not an actual Explorer, it's probably just a Jeep toy of the time.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yep, and the Raptors from the Raptors in the Kitchen animatic that's on the behind the scenes stuff as well. So this is probably going to be the big ticket item, but it also shows just how some of this stuff that's made for the films does not age well. No,
well, especially these were actually made specifically by Stan Winston Studio. You guys know though that 1/16 maquette that we've always seen get pictured with it. This is that. This is not sculpted, but this is cast from that 1/16 maquette by Stan Winston Studio, which means that, like, I think when we talked about on our on our June news roundup, we talked about that write-up I did with the Red Rex and the Thrasher, both originating from this maquette here that we have pictured.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And so, of course, the Horizon also would have been cast from that same mold as for the Raptors and the T-Rex in that case.
Yep.
And it looks like there's some fingers and toes falling off the Raptors.
It looks like a Raptor's taking a chunk out of the side of Rexy's leg.
Yeah.
As well, but yeah, we've showed pictures before of the poor baby Stegosaur and the Tyrannosaurus from Lost World, and that just the latex, how it doesn't last.
But it does bring up an interesting point, though. I saw somebody bring this up on the replica prop forum. If you were to purchase this and have it completely repaired and restored, is it still production used, or is it now an entirely new prop? Because this would need to be heavily, heavily restored, you know?
You'd think it'd nearly be a complete reskin, which, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the whole...
I mean, what's that?
I was going to say, it's the whole Star Trek debate where when you use a transporter, is it copying you, or actually are you still you when you go for the transporter? Which you being a Star Wars fan, you probably haven't heard that one, but
no, but people were bringing that up on the RPF. They're like, well, all your skin cells recycle after are entirely new after 10 years. That make you a new person or something like that, you know?
I wish I felt like a new person. Yeah, and as I just said,
10 years I seem to feel worse.
And as I said before, with that raptor cage, doing a rebuild on that, if it was just a light sanding and a repaint, then maybe you'd get away with it because it's still the original materials and that. But something like this, where I'd assume it's some sort of wireframe or some sort of hard skeleton or posable skeleton with the latex over the top of it. Mm-hmm. Can you even replicate those sort of materials now with it looking the same, or that'd be the same with any movie car too that's fallen into horrible disrepair and they sort of do a full rebuild on it.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, you still got like that with the RV. It was still all they did was kind of buff up the paint and fill in some of the rust spots with Bondo. I mean, it's not like they put a whole new RV on a whole new chassis, you know?
No, exactly right. Yeah. I think you just try and do some sort of sealer to protect it from degrading anymore, if possible, and leave it in its original condition. I think it'd be far more. It'd hold its price far more, you'd think.
Mm-hmm. That'd be an interesting debate to have, you know.
Or even do that with the original and try and get an exact copy made new, so you had the new version of it to touch or pose or do what you wanted with it, but you still had the original sitting there as our last.
I've seen people do that. They've created their own kind of go motion models from the cast of Jurassic Park toys or Horizon models or something like that. I've seen people create quote unquote animated versions of the toys where they're just like a heavy wire interior on a posable material, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, it's the same. If I had the original JP goggles and the new ones coming from Chronicle, those original ones would be behind glass, never to be touched, because I know I'll drop them and break them. If you had the original Hans pistol or something, of course you're going to buy or make a lower, or not so much a lower quality, but a cheaper side version to play with, because you know as soon as you get the real one out of the case, you're going to drop it and break it.
Well, I mean, I have seen people who have created replicas from like an old C96 Mauser.
Yep.
Which was what the original was made off of, and they created it with all original parts, and you wouldn't tell the difference. The weathering is so spot on, you know.
But at least that too, you're sort of using original parts that are actual heavy duty parts. You're not using a resin or polystone or something to try and make it easier to just sculpt the weapon instead of actually create it. But yeah. I know I'll drop it. I know I can't have nice things without something happening to them.
Oh, that's why that Raptor prop that I bought went straight in the case.
Yeah.
Went straight from the bag straight from the box straight into the case. Right on the wall. Otherwise, I'd be just too tempted to play with it, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
We can charge anything we want, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and people will pay it. And then there's the merchandise. I can personally...
Donald, this park was not built to cater only for the super rich. Everyone in the world has the right to enjoy these animals.
Sure, they will.
All right, moving on to the main event, David. This past week, I'm hesitant to call it a trailer because it's only about a minute long. But I suppose it is a trailer for Netflix's Camp Cretaceous, returning back to Jurassic World, and their tagline, "Discovering what's on the other side of the island," which it's funny because 80% of the shots we get in this trailer are of stuff we've already seen on Nublar in the Jurassic World. But I suppose release date is coming out 18th of September this year. 8 episodes for season 1. I haven't seen or heard anywhere of how long those episodes are going to be. Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't.
No, so yeah, unsure how long.
The only thing I kind of am expecting is for the first episode to kind of be a extended length, and if it's supposed to be a half hour each episode, I expect it to be a full hour. If it's an hour episode, I expect it to be an hour and a half or something like that. Because from the looks of it, it looks like it's going to kind of cover those early parts. Are going to kind of cover it's going to be concurrent to to Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Like it's going to involve all the kids running from the Indominus Rex, which we know is dead at the end of Jurassic World.
And it's also interesting too, Netflix with the animated series normally order 2 or 3 seasons straight up, so it's quite possible. I've heard that season 2 is supposed to air in December, so I
would be interested in finding out the production values on this show, though, because the animation kind of meets me somewhere, or gives me the impression of being somewhere between the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. It's not as kind of shortcutty as Star Wars Rebels. There's a lot of detail in the animation, but it's not quite as crisp as Star Wars the Clone Wars was. And so I know a big part of the reason that Disney canceled Star Wars the Clone Wars after the buyout of Lucasfilm, besides not wanting Cartoon Network to have it, was because the animation cost was astronomical on that show. I mean, George Lucas had money to burn, and Dave Filoni had ideas to sell, so it was just a perfect pairing, and they made 6 seasons out of it. But the animation just kept getting more and more detailed, more crisp, more incredible. It was, by the end of the show, it might as well have been live action.
Yeah.
But it was just, the viewership was down and the animation cost was up, and Disney doesn't operate like Lucas does. They don't just let people burn money. And I'm afraid that if this show's cost is too high and its viewership too low, Netflix won't deal with it. Netflix won't bother having it anymore, and it won't matter how many fans cry out and how well written the show is. It'll just get canceled because it's not making money, and in the end of the day, that's sadly what counts in this world.
Yep. Yeah, well, it is there have been a lot of grumbles about sort of the quality, the CG, just the art style as well for this series.
I don't think it's bad. It's not Disney and it's not DreamWorks like movie quality, but it's not bad.
It's you can't go photorealistic with this. You got the whole uncanny valley. They've used the CG models from ILM for the animals, so they've had to dumb them down slightly, but for the most part, I'm quite happy with how the animals and that look. Well, the human characters themselves, I think they're fine for what this is going to be. I think people, even the Clone Wars was sort of more of a it's a show made for kids, but some of the content is for the older fans, and we've been told this is going to be along the same line.
And even the environments, I think, look fantastic. I mean, some of these jungles look great. I have no complaints about the animation. I thought it would be cartoony and crappy, and I wouldn't like it, but I like it.
Yep.
I mean, I was kind of afraid of Teen Titans Go kind of animation. I was afraid of.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not Disney, Pixar. It's not DreamWorks. It's movie. I mean, I would compare it to say a level under sequel or Secret Life of Pets, if you've seen those movies.
Well, my kids here on a Saturday morning are watching the How to Train Your Dragon TV series and the Puss in Boots and all that sort of DreamWorks
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah, and
It's comparable to that.
Yeah, and it's fine for what. This is the third or fourth go they've had of trying to make a animated series for the Jurassic Park series, and we're finally getting something. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not something. It's not How to Train Your Dragon the movie. You can't count every single hair on the characters' heads, but it's still really good.
Yeah, and you can't expect a budget like that for a TV series.
Yeah,
I do find it funny here in we get to see the kids both in the raptor and the mosasaur enclosures, which raises some questions. I've seen one comment on the one of the posts during the week is how bad is it or how bad are the kids being chased that they find refuge in these areas?
Well, the raptors are still in their pens, which means that at some point the raptors or the kids get into the pen before the Indominus versus raptor kind of showdown, which also means that. And the mosasaur one is kind of weird because the kids are dangling from that feeding chain that they dropped the shark up from, which is like, how did they get up there in the first place?
And an inflatable raft, presumably below it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just... And it's always going to happen where they just throw a series of scenes at us and question how all this makes sense. But it's also one thing coming up too is the style. It seems to be sort of bridging that gap between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. A lot of stuff we're seeing for Camp Cretaceous looks more Jurassic Park. We have the 6x6 Mercedes that's actually done up in the original Jeep colours and not just that silver from Jurassic World.
Yes. It's not in the silver and blue, which makes me kind of wonder that, because in the original novel, the red stripe across the vehicles was so the Triceratops didn't try to charge them. So I wonder if the blue wasn't as effective. You know, a deterrent. You know. Yeah.
And then we got a scene here where the zip line's set up. It seems to be another separate herbivore valley or herbivore area where we got the brachiosaurs, stegosaurs. There's an ankylosaur there which looks just like the ones that the Irex were fighting, and Triceratops as well. But they've got ATVs or quad bikes out riding amongst them as well, and just a drab green or blue. So
well, we saw those in the movie too. Barry was riding one of the ATVs,
but they're not red, and they're in with the Triceratops. Maybe they're quicker and they're not a target for them to ram or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
Even sort of the tone, like a lot of the camp stuff's more of that yellowy colour.
And
I suppose we'll get into it here too. The redwoods seem to make a massive reappearance into the franchise here as well, or something along that line.
Yeah, well, they look like, and this is something we've both been kind of speculating on how they did it, because redwoods take 300 years to grow to full size, and obviously Isla Nublar or Jurassic World hasn't had that time. So I'm wondering if they're using some kind of like super miracle growth enhancers like they do the dinosaurs. And instead of getting a redwood in 300 years, you get it in 30.
Yeah, 'cause I never realised till last week when and it was on last week's Minutes we were discussing with Jay when I seen some of the figures in store and the box art and seeing the like massive. I'd only say they're bigger than what we see in the Lost World, some of these trees, with the little sort of camp up in the trees. Like I commented, very Ewok-like, but yeah, and we discussed during that the lab scene when we first get the lab in Jurassic Park 3 whether there's horticulture or that sort of stuff going on there as well, or if these trees are just man-made, because there is one that seems to be split in two that's got glass. Presumably a glass elevator going up the middle of it as well.
Could be. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, I've got pictures that I took in the redwoods of giant, massive, fully grown redwoods that are split at two at the base and seem to have a like a Siamese twin thing going on where they're they're conjoined at the base, but they split and form two fully grown 20-foot wide redwood trees.
Yeah. Well, I think you posted the photo up too of one that almost its entire trunk was gone from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole tree was still growing up with some very few segments still attached to the ground.
And that's another thing is that these trees, I mean, you can hollow them out almost all the way to the top, and they survive. It's crazy how you can just go inside of one and just stare up at the top of it. I've got some pictures of that I took in the redwoods that look like that,
Yeah.
and it's just how does it stay up? It's like my dad looking at a crane. How does it stay up?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting if that's even addressed in the cartoon itself. But I'd just love to see, as you said, then we might get a extended opening pilot. I'd just love to see at least an episode or two of the park working before everything starts to go to crap.
I'm guessing, like, if it's like a two-parter, like I expect the opening to be, we'll get that first part of it just being awesome and fun, and then the second half of it being running and screaming, you know?
Well, it does bring up the question again, too. If they've got a couple of seasons planned out, how do you spread what happened in Jurassic World over that time, whether an episode takes a couple hours out of the day, or... Because essentially when the park goes to crap and they're all left behind on the island, and do you still call it Camp Cretaceous? Because the camp's not working anymore. Yes, it's abandoned, but it'll be just interesting to see how the plot of the show continues through season 1, and that'll probably give us a good idea of what's going to continue in season 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, presumably the objective will be to find some way to contact people to get them off the island. You know, and I'm sure there'll be multiple close encounters that kind of they almost get there and then frustratingly don't.
Yeah, well, we don't get to see any of the baryonyx in this trailer too, which we know there's a trio there, and the Carnotaurus. Maybe they're getting set up here to be big bads after the Indominus dies at the end of the season or something. But I wonder if there's going to be any time jumps and they try to get this to Fallen Kingdom and then into Dominion, but there definitely wouldn't be a Camp Cretaceous left after Fallen Kingdom because the island's gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, then there is also that. There's also a time frame because we know they're probably still not on the island when it blows.
Yeah.
I don't think Universal would suddenly vaporize like 6 innocent children.
Well,